I am going to be showing you how to make this layered rose cup you could see Vicky James wearing over here. So if it is something that you are interested in learning, then just keep watching. And I would also be showing you how to make this layered falling sleeve that is attached to the dress also. So make sure that you listen attentively so that you'll be able to gain value from what I'm showing you guys. This was what I recreated, right? You could see I used a wrapper for the sake of illustration. So this piece I created over here is strictly for what illustration. It's not for anybody's body size, it's just strictly for illustration. So without further ado, my name is Deratailor and welcome back to my channel. So I'm just going to start the tutorial and show you how I achieved this beautiful design over here. What you need for this tutorial over here, you need your main fabric. It could be a wrapper or any other type of material. You need a plain material, different color for your rose, and you need your corset pattern. So if you do not know how to draft a corset pattern, I have a video showing you a detailed tutorial on how to draft a corset pattern. All you just need to do is to click on the link on the comment section. So first of all, this is our corset pattern that I have already drafted out. So my wrapper now is folded into two. I just brought one part of my pattern and I placed it on top, so I'm just going to be using it to cut out my fabric. So I just placed it on top, and then using my scissors I'm going to be cutting half an inch away. I'm not going to be cutting directly the same thing because of sewing allowance, so just take note of that. Anything we are going to be cutting here using our pattern, we're going to be leaving half an inch for sewing allowance so that at the end of the day it will be able to fit you. So you could see how I am following the lines and I'm just cutting it out. After I was done with the pattern, I kept it away, and then we have our first part of the pattern, right? I'm going to be repeating the same process, exactly the same process on the other pattern. I'll be representing it on my fabric, right? Leaving half an inch for sewing allowance. So please take note of that. You have to leave half an inch for sewing allowance. So I'm just representing all this here, and this one too is also on fold, representing the both sides. So take note of that. I don't want to waste you guys time, so I'm just going to go ahead to fast forward the cutting process, so just watch closely. I hope you have developed an understanding of the way it works now. We are just leaving half an inch for sewing allowances. After I was done cutting, this is what it was looking like, and then I placed the other part of my pattern on it so you could see the shape that it gave me here. So this is our pattern for the cup that we are going to create, and I do have here my foam with me, so I'm going to be representing this pattern on my foam. So this is the first part of my corset part, sorry, this is the first part of my cup. Remember, you can see that I indicated it using my marker. So giving space using half an inch, I went ahead to cut it just like the way I did for the other part, so you could see what I'm cutting. I'm representing it on my foam. I'm going to be cutting these four pieces of it for the two boobs. So that's just what I'm going to be doing. What I mean by I'm going to be cutting four parts of it is this first part I'm going to be cutting two of it, and then the second part I'm going to be cutting two of it, right? You could see. So this is just me trimming all the excesses that I am not going to be needing. So I'm just going to be repeating the same process on the second part also. After I was done cutting the first part, I used my marker to indicate it on my foam so that I will not get confused between the first and the second part. So I advise you should also use something to indicate it. And then I'm also going to go ahead to cut out the second part. Using the same process for the first part, I am going to cut it, leaving half an inch for allowance sake. And then what I'm just going to do is I'm also going to be using my marker to indicate it as my second part. So I also suggest that you follow this process, because if you don't do this you might get confused between the cups, because the first part and the second part of the cups are not equal. So I suggest that you use your marker to indicate it just like the way I did. This is the first part and this is the second part that we have already drafted out. It looks similar, but trust me, they are not the same. So I made one for the first boob and I made the other one for the second boob. So you could see I have 4 pieces of it, 2 pieces of first part and 2 pieces for the second part also. I also represented this pattern on my wrapper. So this wrapper is going to serve as a lining. This wrapper is not for the main fabric, the one that will be shown, because the one that will be showing is our rose, right? So I hope you get that. So I brought the first and the second part together. What I'm going to do is, using my needle, I'm going to be using it to join them together. So in just like a zigzag stitch, I'm trying to do a zigzag stitch using my hand needle because I don't have the machine to do that. So guys, you should not use a machine to do this. That is what I said. You should not use a machine to do this. A machine is not going to give you the same result. So instead of using a machine, I prefer that you use your hand to do it. So using your hand is better than using a machine. A machine might not give you the results you want. So I'm just using my hand needle to sew the areas that I'm going to be sewing. All you just need to do is watch the way I am sewing. So I'm just going to zoom it a little bit so that you can see the way I am sewing. This is just a simple way of stitching. It's nothing hard. So I'm just going to zoom it for you to see. After stitching it, this is what it's looking like. You can see the way I stitched the other at which I stitched it, right? You could see the area that I marked with my marker. So I also repeated the same process at the other side. So we now have 2 cups. We have 2 cups, and I'm also going to be doing this with my lining. You can see the way I opened it. This is what it's looking like. If you use a machine, like I said before, it might not give you the same thing, right? So I hope you don't use a machine, you use your hand. You could see how deep it is, how deep it is and how structured the cup came out. So like I said, I'm also going to be using my machine now. So you can use your machine to do this for your lining. So I'm going to be using my machine to follow the patterns of it. So I just used the wrapper to cover the cups, but this is what it's looking like after I use my machine to sew my wrapper out. So this is what it's looking like after I was done doing this. We are just going to keep this aside and go to the next part. So I do have the wrapper that we cut out using our corset pattern. So remember, I also represented this as a lining. I cut 2 out of it for my lining. So I'm just going to go ahead to join these parts together. So just watch the part I'm joining. I'll be joining that side and I would also be joining this side also. After I was done joining it with my machine, this is what it was looking like. I already stitched them both. I also did the same thing for the lining area. Remember, we are using the wrapper as a lining, right? So I then brought my cup so that you can see. I brought the cups that we already did. Remember, this cup is a lining, so I already brought out the cups. Remember, this is just the wrapper, not the cup, sorry. And then I'm going to be stitching it together. This is the lining part. This is the lining part, not the front part. This is the lining part. And after stitching it, this is what it's looking like. You could see the back and then you can also see the front. So this is our lining part. Now we do have our cups here. We're going to be making our rose now, and then we have our plain material that we are going to be using to make our rose for the cup. So you could see the way I folded it. I just folded it in a triangular form, just the way you will fold your adult flay if you're cutting, just the way you fold your flay if you're cutting it. So just watch the way I folded it. You can see the way I folded it. The way you are going to fold your flay is the way that you are going to fold this. I folded it in a flame like manner. So I'm just going to go ahead to smooth it. I'm just going to repeat it again just until you get it. You could see the way I folded it, right? Now this is one part of our cup. So the next thing I'm going to do is from this area, you could see the area, from that area, this area that I'm chalking down, this area, from that area I place my tape and I'm going to be marking 14 inches. I'm going to be marking 14 inches all around it. So just watch the way I am marking 14 inches all around it. But then if you have a bigger bust, I recommend using 18 inches. So the lengthier it is, that's the longer it is, the more full your rose is going to be. So using 14 inches, I have a small bust but I'm using 14 inches. But if you have a big bust, using 18 to 20 inches is perfectly fine. Doesn't matter how big the bust of the person is. So using 18 inches is okay, or 20 inches. So you could see the way I did it. And remember, the lengthier it is, how long it is determine how full your rose is going to be. So you can see what I represented with my chalk. I went around marking 14 inches all around, and after I was done, I went ahead to use my scissors to cut out what I chalked down. So just watch the way I am cutting it out. I hope you understand this part. It's nothing hard, it's just the way you are going to cut your flay. So that is it. Like I said, having a bigger bust, you can use 18 to 20 inches is perfectly fine for you. It's going to give you exactly what you want. And if you have a small bust, you can use 13 to 14 inches. That's if you want. But the lengthier it is, the longer it is, the more fuller your rose is going to be. So make sure you note that. This is what it's looking like after I was done cutting. So this is just for one cup. I'm going to represent it, and we now have two of it. I place it on the same fabric and I cut out the same thing. So this is the area that I'm going to be stitching. This area you see me using my fingers. So the one part of that triangle. So this area that you can see, this is the area that I stitched. So just watch. That was the area that I stitched. You can see what I stitched. I use a different color of thread so that you can understand it. I also did the same thing for the other part of the cup. So I'm just going to go ahead to turn it. You could see that it's already forming a rose, right? So we're going to be placing it on top of our cup, and then we're just going to be forming it. But before placing it on our cup, I just use my hand to dig into the inner parts of the plain material. You could see this area right now. You could see this area. I just use my fingers to dig into it. You can see what I'm doing, and then using my thread and needle, I use it to remove it at the middle of my cup. I just hope you understand what I'm doing, right? So I'm just going to be stitching that area. I'm going to be stitching it together. I'm going to be stitching my cup with the plain material at that point. And the essence of doing this is because when I'm going to be draping this, I do not want it to be moving around. So I wanted one place to be stitched already. So that is just what I did. So I'm just going to repeat it again so that you can understand what I am doing. Remember, I just stitched the inner part of the plain material together with my cup so that it does not have to move around when I am going to be draping it. So this is totally optional, right? But I just wanted to do mine like that. So just watch what I'm doing. What I'm just doing is I'm trying to stitch it as many times as possible just to make sure that it is very firm. You should also do the same thing, stitching it as much as possible. So the back part is what I'm going to use to secure my threads. So you can see the way I'm doing it. I use the back part of my corset to secure the threads. Can see the area that I stitched. You could see that area, right? And you could see what I mean by this is after joining them both together. You can see what I was speaking about. So I just opened my cup very well, and then I'm just going to start the draping process. Now guys, this part is very easy, trust me. All you just have to do is to just keep opening them up. You can see I did it again so that you understand. All I did was I just opened this up and I'm just arranging it carefully. I repeated it again so that you would understand again. So all I just did was I opened it up, and then I'm just going to be placing them carefully. But at the end of the day, I have to make sure that this covers my cups completely. It covers the cup, every part of the cup completely. So you could do it in this way, and in the way I'm doing, sorry, I'm just draping it very well carefully just to make sure that giving it the design that I want. You could see the way I'm doing it. Now this part you can actually freehand it depends on the design you want. So that is what you will do, but this is what I'm okay with now. And of course guys, you should always tack it. You should have to tack it. You have to tack it, because if you do not tack it, it's not going to stay. If you don't tack it, it's not going to stay. So I recommend you tacking. You must surely tack it. So after drafting out, after like draping it on top of your cup, all you just have to do is to use your needle and thread to tack it. Make sure that you do not like change the shape of it. Just make sure it remains here. If you have to pin it down, you can pin it down, but just tack it in various area. And when you are tacking it, you have to ensure that it is as neat as possible, that much thread is not showing on the outer surface. I hope you get what I'm saying, that much thread is not showing on the outer surface. So you have to make sure that your tackings are neat. So it's only the back of it that is going to be rough. So this took me about 30 minutes to tack both cups, that's to drape both cups around it. But don't get scared, it's not really hard, it's not hard at all. So what is your goal in making this? At the end of the day, you have to make sure that the fabric is enough to cover the cups. No part of the cups should be left naked, right? I just went ahead to keep tacking it. You could see how the rose is coming up. Like I said, when you are tacking, make sure threads is not showing at the outer part. So you should just make sure that the thread, even if the thread is going to show, it should be showing at the inner part, that is in the breast part area. So that is just what I'm doing here. Just watch. I'm just going to stop talking and just watch the way I'm doing. You can now see what our rose is looking like. So I'm just going to show you the back of it. That is why I'm saying that even if it's going to be rough, let the back be rough. You could see how the back is looking like, but how neat the front is. And I also did the same thing on the second part of the cup. I just did different designs so that I can show you guys that you can do different design. You could see that if two parts of the corset, they are not the same thing, right? They are not the same thing. So I'm just going to use my marker to show you where I'm going to be stitching with my machine. I'm going to be stitching the end of my cups. The end of my cups, this area that I'm marking with my marker, are the areas that I'm going to be stitching with my machine. So please take note of that. I'm just going to go ahead and stitch around the circumference of it. And after stitching it, this is what it's looking like. I use my machine to stitch those areas together just to secure the rose flounce, and you could see. And then the next thing I'm just going to do is to use my scissors to cut out the excesses. And when you are cutting, you have to make sure that you are cutting the area that you can see. What I mean by that is you have to turn it to the place that the foam is, where you are seeing the foam, because if you turn it to the area that is covered, that's the rose area, you might cut the wrong part. So you should just turn it to the white area, that's the padded area. So this is just what it's looking like, and I'm also going to cut out the other side of it. So this is what our rose is looking like. Look at how neat it is. I also cut out this other part also. I am done trimming it. You can see I am done trimming it, and then this is what the both of them are looking like. Now, just the way we did for the lining, we are going to be joining the cup together with the body, just the way we did for the lining. So we are just going to turn it upside down. This is going to serve as a guide. So this area that is zigzag stitched, this area we stitch, we are going to be placing it together with the area that is stitched also at the body part. So I'm just going to go and join it and bring it. So this is the back of it. You see why you need a lining to cover these rough edges, right? And then this is the front of it, guys. This is the front of it. Look at how nice it is looking. I'm just going to go ahead to use my lining to cover it up. I made sure that the wrong part of the lining is facing me, and then the right part is facing inside of it. And then using my fingers, I'm going to be showing you where I'm going to be sewing. I'm going to be sewing from the beginning of it to the end of it, from the beginning, from the top part to the end part of it. And after stitching it, after I was done, this is what it's looking like. I also went ahead to sew the sides area of it. You could see what it's looking like. Look at how neat it is. Now we already have the rough edges covered up, so it's nothing hard. What I did here was I already joined the back together. I'm sure that everybody here on how to cut the back of a top, right? I just joined it. That this is nothing serious. I did not put a zipper allowance because I'm not going to be wearing this. This is just for illustration. And I also made a spaghetti strap, which is going to serve as my band. I made a spaghetti strap. So now what I'm going to measure is how long I want my strap to be, so that it is going to cover the front and my back area. So mine was 12 inches. If you do not not know how to calculate this, all you just have to do is to wear the top and then just ask somebody to take it around the strap around your body. So from this point of my journey, I came in by 3 inches. I came in by 3 inches. I went in by 3 inches, and then I marked it at the front part, and I'm also going to do it. And then after doing so, I'm going to also mark 3 inches at the back. That is going to show where I'm going to be adding my strap, joining my strap from that point of 3 inches. Now this point, like I said, is totally optional. If you do not want to come in by 3 inches, coming in by 2 inches or so is perfectly fine. Just like how Vicky James was, it was not up to 3 inches, right? So this is perfectly fine. So you can see the way I'm going to join it. I'm just going to use my machine to go around it. This is what my straps were looking like after I was done stitching. I stitched the front and I also stitched the back multiple times just to ensure that it stays perfectly well, right? Then the next thing we are just going to do is to go ahead to make our sleeve. This is what I'm going to be using to make the sleeve. The same thing I used to drape our rose, the same fabric, and you can see it's on fold. This is going to give me one sleeve, so it's on fold currently, and then I'm going to take in my length. So the length that I'm going to be working with is 13 inches. So the trick behind this is that if you want your sleeve to be more pronounced, that is to be more full, you will not go up by 13 inches, you go up more than that. You can make yours 20 inches, but I went up by 13 inches for just illustration sake, right? You remember I said I'm not going to be using this. So if you want it, the more fuller you want it, the more lengthier it has to be. I hope you understand. So I went up 13 inches. Now for the width of the top, having our top and bottom part, so this is the top part. Now I use 6 inches for the width of the top part. The top part is 6 inches, and now the bottom part of it, I'm going to be using 9 inches. I added extra 3 inches to the bottom part of it. Now the trick behind this is that what you are going to use for your top part should not be what you are using for your bottom part. If you want to achieve that falling sleeve, you can see how the sleeve fell. What you use for the top part is not what you are going to use for the bottom part. The top part has to be small and the bottom part has to be bigger than the top part. So I then went ahead to connect it, and you can see that it gave me a form of like a slanted shape. You could see this shape it gave me. If yours is giving you a straight shape, then you are wrong. It has to give you a slanted shape. I then went ahead to cut everything that I have here now. Now this is just for one sleeve. I'm just going to place it on top of the other fabric just to get 2 sleeves for it. So that's just what I'm going to do. I went ahead to fold the top part, and I also folded the bottom part of it, so you should also fold yours. This is what it's looking like after folding it. I do have here my blouse, and I'm going to be attaching my sleeve towards it. I turned my blouse to the wrong side and I came down by 3 inches at the armhole area. So you could see where I came down by 3 inches at the armhole area, and then I'm going to use my razor to open it up to the point of that 3 inches. So after I opened it up, this is what it's looking like. I opened up that area. I hope you understand. So I went ahead to bring in my sleeve, and then this slanted area, you could see this slanted area, I'm going to use my machine to pleat it. And after pleating it, I'm going to make sure that the length is going to give me 3 inches. I'm going to pleat it up to 3 inches, and the other side also I'm going to pleat it up to 3 inches. I'm done pleating it, and it gave me 3 inches here. You could see the way I pleated it, and then I also repeated the same process at this other side. What I'm going to do is now I'm going to fold it together. Making sure it's facing the right side, not the wrong side. This was a mistake I corrected. Making sure it's facing the right side, and then I'm going to be imputing it as the armhole area. So I made sure that I placed it inside of the blouse. Just watch the way I'm doing it. I made sure I placed the sleeve inside of the blouse, and then I folded it together. I joined it together, and I'm going to be stitching this area. Just watch what I'm doing. It's not hard. I'm going to be stitching this area. You could see where my fingers are showing, I'm going to be stitching that area. And after stitching it, this is what it was looking like. Remember, I came down by 3 inches from our armhole. So you guys, is what our sleeve is looking like. Remember, the lengthier it is, the more beautiful it's going to come out. So thank you so much guys for watching this video. Do not forget to share, like, and also subscribe to this video. And also guys, if you're interested on how I made my corset pattern, just go to the comment section and click on the link to take you directly to that video.